So today we're going to take a look at what we call the subjunctive mood. We're also going to take a look at the other verb moods, but we're really going to focus a lot on the subjunctive mood. So here we go. Have you ever had someone start giving you advice? All right, so if I were you, I would watch my speed limit. Or have you ever had someone wish for something that wasn't possible? Sometimes I wish I were not a superhero. Or you ever have someone make a real strong suggestion? Propose? Yes. I propose that this relationship be terminated. That's cold, dude. If you've ever had someone give you advice or wish for something that wasn't possible or make a strong suggestion, then you probably have used what we call the subjunctive mood. Let's take some good notes today. All right, so I'll let you know when there's something I want you to write down. So the English verbs use their modals to create moods. So here's the first thing I want you to capture today is what we call the indicative mood. The indicative mood is when we use the modal will to actually indicate a fact or a question about a fact. All right? So if I say, hey, I will make a note of that, that is the indicative mood. You've indicated a fact. We oftentimes think of the word will as being future, but really what it is it's indicating something that's a fact or a question about a fact. So if I said, I will be leaving soon for the podiatrist. Yeah, that sounds future-y, but that's not really a tense that we're focusing on. We want to focus on the idea that we're indicating a fact. Or if I said, when will you get your COVID vaccine? Yes, it's in the future, but what I really want to focus on is I'm questioning a fact. And that's what the word will does for us. It creates an indicative mood. Next thing I want you to capture is what we call the conditional mood. Now, you don't have to write this down because I'm going to break it down a little more for you, but the conditional mood is going to use may and can and shall and must to express possibility, probability, obligation, and a necessity. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so if I said I should write these notes down in some fashionable colored pens, yeah, that is the conditional mood. Let's see what I mean. So if I take on possibility, we use may and might to create a sense of possibility. The condition is possible. But I want you to hear the difference between them because oftentimes some people don't know how to use one or the other. If I say I may go to Chick-fil-A after school, or I might go to Chick-fil-A after school, the first one sounds more possible than the second one. I may sounds much more possible than I might. I want you to remember the present tense of these modals is always stronger than the past tense. May is stronger than might. And maybe you want to use the word might. But if you really think you're going to go, it's more possible you're going to go, say the word may. How about probability? Can and could. Well, if I said I can eat 50 eggs in an hour to I could eat 50 eggs in an hour. Well, I can eat 50 eggs in an hour sounds more probable, like you're going to, as opposed to I could eat 50 eggs in an hour. They're both probable, but one is more probable. The can is much more likely going to happen than the could. A difference between the two. Third one, obligation, shall and should. This is the biggest one I think we make mistakes on, besides may and might. I think we use the word should because we don't like the sound of the word shall, but we really mean the word shall. Let's just show you what I mean. We shall all wear the lovely cat sweaters Grandma knitted for us, as opposed to we should all wear the lovely cat sweaters Grandma knitted for us. Well, when you're obliged to do something, are you really obliged or kind of obliged? We should do this as opposed to we shall do this. You can tell that first one is really kind of says, okay, I'm kind of obliged, and you feel like they're going to be putting on these cat sweaters, where the second one sounds like, yeah, we should. I'm not sure it's going to happen, but we should kind of do it. And so therefore, you get a sense of why we probably oftentimes mean the word shall, because we're probably going to do it, as opposed to we're obliged, but we're not going to do it, and therefore we use the word should. So a little difference between those two. And lastly, for this grouping is necessity, must and ought to. Now, these two verbs are not present and past of each other. They're two separate verbs, but they kind of work hand in hand with the necessity. So if I said, I must study for my next test more than I did for my previous one, sounds a little bit more of a need than I ought to study for my next test more than I did for the previous one. You get a sense that must is, the necessity is stronger than the ought to. Both of them express a need, but the must is stronger than the ought to. The next mood I want you to capture is what we call the emphatic mood. The emphatic mood uses this wannabe modal of do to kind of emphasize the verb. It's not really a modal. If you look on your list of modals, do's not there, but we use it as sort of like a stand-in kind of wannabe modal. So if I said, seriously, I do enjoy my grammar class, you're kind of emphasizing that verb do. I'm sorry, emphasize that verb enjoy. Or if I said, I did retry your homemade guacamole, and I still do think it tastes like drywall paste. Well, then that would be once again, I'm reinforcing or I'm emphasizing that word retry, or I'm really emphasizing that verb think. I did retry, or I do enjoy. And this is what we call the emphatic mood. But what I want to focus on, besides these, which I want to make sure you capture, is I want to take on the other one. The one that causes us sometimes to kind of scratch our head saying, really? And that's what we call the subjunctive mood. Let me pause and then pick up on part 2 with the subjunctive mood.